Hi, I'm Flip Padot. Welcome to Old Bull TV. So, Donald Trump won the Iowa Democratic Caucus last night. Mike Bloomberg came in a close second, and everyone else tied for last. Also, the Iowa Democratic State Party self-immolated, with an assist from, naturally, the Hillary Clinton campaign. So can the markets help us make sense of what happens next in the 2020 horse race? Yes, but it's a frigging mess. Come, let's shoot the bull. Now, in reality, it's looking quite likely that Bernie Sanders actually won the Iowa caucus, but a proverbial epic heroic fail of the reporting app used by the state party threw the whole affair into utter chaos Monday night, with the tallies being described by the state party as conflicting and unreliable. Quote, "We found inconsistencies in the reporting of 3 sets of results. This is simply a reporting issue. The app did not go down, and this is not a hack or an intrusion. The underlying data and paper trail is sound and will simply take some time to further report the results." So now, before we delve into the cause of this absolute nightmare, let's get to the results such as they are. In terms of the state delegate equivalence, one is looking like Sanders narrowly beat out Pete Buttigieg, followed by Warren, Biden, and Klobuchar in 5th. So last night, Mayor Pete actually claimed victory, but partial numerical results put out by both his and the Sanders campaign suggest otherwise. Based on their partially collected tallies, the Sanders campaign shows itself with 30% support among caucus goers, with Buttigieg with 25%, good for a plurality of 29% of state delegate equivalents won by Sanders to Pete's 26%. The Buttigieg campaign this morning put out full precinct level data of 75% of the state, showing himself having a nearly identical caucus goer support level within 0.1% of what the Sanders campaign showed Pete having, suggesting they're working off of very similar data. Now, Pete's memo claims that gives him 28% of delegates, not 25%, but he did not give any numbers for any of the other candidates. So since the two campaigns seem to have data that basically agrees with each other, and since Pete's morning memo no longer claims victory, but rather that the night proved that he is the best positioned candidate to beat Donald Trump, and that he built a broad base of support geographically and demographically across the state, it would suggest that this has gone to Bernie. So now, given the complete and total disarray in which the Iowa Dems find themselves at the moment, Sanders' apparent victory is subject to change. But given that he's only trading at 63% on PredictIt, this seems like nearly free money, a likely 50% return that might be realizable as soon as the end of today. And, it's worth noting, a Sanders field organizer currently in Iowa City who was chatting in the wee hours this morning on the PredictIt Discord server did feel confident enough to plow some of his Super Bowl winnings into 200 shares of Bernie to win Iowa at 62 cents. Now, this field organizer may have acknowledged being in a chemically compromised state at the time, but take that for whatever it's worth. Still, for Buttigieg, this is a very strong showing in the state that he desperately needed in order to keep the train on the tracks, at least for a little while longer. As for Biden, his very disappointing 4th place finish makes it clear to anyone, if there is anyone who had not yet realized this, that his campaign is toast, something in fact that traders have been saying for the several days leading into Iowa. He's actually now down to 17 to 19% to win the nomination, which is tied with Mike Bloomberg behind Sanders for number 2. And I think even that, at this point, is generous to Biden. Still, when life gives you lemons, or when Iowans give you the finger, you make this rather pathetic lemonade.
Well, it looks like it's going to be a long night, but I'm feeling good. From our indication, it's going to be close. We're going to walk out of here with our share of delegates. We don't know exactly what it is yet, but we feel good about where we are. And look, so it's on to New Hampshire, Nevada, South Carolina, and well beyond. We're in this for the long haul.
So here Biden is cheering, having crossed the 15% viability threshold, barely, enough to win at least some delegates, but that should be little cause for celebration for a candidate who was actually leading the Real Clear Politics average of Iowa polling just 10 days before the caucuses. Biden's ground game is terrible, his momentum is non-existent, and his is now officially a zombie campaign. As for Pete, the strong showing does give him a few more at-bats, but does an asterisky silver in Iowa maybe an approximate tie with Warren for a distant second in New Hampshire, and slim odds in Nevada and South Carolina where he polls in single digits really leave him any plausible path to the nomination. No, this is now the Bernie show. The nomination is the Democratic Socialists to lose. And lose it he will, of course, as soon as the party figures out how to take it away from him and give it to Mike Bloomberg. So let's get to this atrocious little app that caused all the trouble. The state party says that it was not hacked and they just need more time to collect all the reporting, to reconstitute the paper trail, count all the dimpled chads, and all will be well. Folks in the field reported all kinds of bugs, glitches, and delays with the reporting technology, making it in many cases unusable, leading to precincts manually calling in their 3 sets of data, bogging down the party apparatus that had a scant 4 years to prepare for the occasion. So, who do we have to thank for this unholy mess? Well, 3 weeks ago, NPR ran an article entitled, "Despite Election Security Fears, Iowa Caucuses Will Use New Smartphone App." Now, quoting from the article, in an interview, Iowa Democratic Chairman Troy Price declined to provide more details about which company or companies designed the app, or about what specific measures may have been put in place to guarantee the system's security. The state party worked with the National Party's cybersecurity team and with Harvard University's Defending Digital Democracy project, but Price declined to answer directly whether any third party has investigated the app for vulnerabilities, as many cybersecurity experts recommend. Now, the next market that predicted ought to launch is obviously how long Price will remain state party chairman, and you should immediately max out on a super short period of time. As for the mystery app developer, after a screw-up of this magnitude, obviously that's a secret that was not going to keep for long, and the app is now widely reported to be the brainchild of a technology firm called, aptly, Shadow. Now, Shadow appears to have been formed earlier this year with the apparent purpose of crapping up the Democrats' nominating process. And as you've undoubtedly guessed already, that firm is run by the head of product for Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign, a Mr. Gerard Namira, who was in charge of her in-the-field IT at the time, because nothing says data security and systems integrity than the remnants of the Hillary Clinton campaign. So whether it was maliciously intended or a case of ordinary rank incompetence, you can add the 2020 Iowa Democratic Caucus and perhaps every future Iowa caucus to the Clinton body count. It's no wonder that the state party was so tight-lipped about the origins of their tech. Bernie would have been crying foul for weeks, and not without some justification. Were he to have lost yesterday, which again it does not appear likely that he did, there would be howling this morning. Still, perhaps this debacle will serve a useful democratic purpose in the end. The caucusing process is at best a charming relic, and at worst, laughably outdated and pointless. Iowa's pole position in the nominating process itself is mainly a matter of electoral inertia. The results don't really matter to the convention floor math, after all, with the state accounting for less than 1% of delegates nationwide. It matters only because it's first, and therefore an arbitrary proving ground. But if the results from this contest are not universally trusted, and no matter what, it's 100% inevitable that they won't, given that the initial problem had to do with reporting inconsistent numbers and the various camps now have different incentives to sow doubt about the ultimate tally, then Iowa's outsized role in the primary process is rightfully and belatedly now a thing of the past. So what's the upshot here? Price is finished. Iowa's first in the nation status is finished. Biden is finished. Namira will fail upward into a senior role at the Clinton Foundation or perhaps the Bloomberg administration. As I mentioned, Bloomberg is now tied with Biden behind Sanders in likelihood to win the Democratic nomination. And as discussed in our recent episode, Old Bull Spoils the 2020 Primaries, once Bernie finishes blazing through the early primary states, the party will more fully realize that it needs someone to save it from a candidate they simply will not allow to be the nominee. That's not going to be Uncle Joe, who will come out of the early states covered in the stench of multiple losses, possibly even in his firewall state of South Carolina. Now, maybe the party could hold their nose and get past that, but Uncle Pennybags will be giving them the razzle-dazzle 24/7, and the bum who keeps losing everywhere will be hopelessly pitiful in comparison. Until then, we have lots more irrelevant early state theater to enjoy and plenty of action on the prediction markets to make it somewhat less irrelevant. Please remember to subscribe to this channel while you're here. Follow us on Twitter at Old Bull TV, and we will see you in New Hampshire.